running around the world together for years.
Yeah, you
now.
have to read my bio. What does that say? Sorry.
I know your bio. Dave is the co-founder, Hacker University, Parameter Security. You have another third
We
company.
do forensics, parameter forensics.
And also has a company that specializes in forensics. And so when he's not doing forensics, hacking, or teaching, he's usually on CNBC, CNN, Fox News, one of the international affiliates, cable news networks, speaking about whoever got hacked lately, insurance, Target, Home Depot. So you might catch him on the evening news sometimes, Fox Business, frequently on Fox Business. And one of the top guys in the industry out there right now, chasing the bad guys, trying to help people keep them out of their network. And, so you guys help me welcome Dave, one of my close friends from St. Louis.
How's everyone doing? Everybody can hear me? Can you hear me? Everybody give a big hand to Paul. I met Paul, God, it's been about 5 years now. Oh, God. I still regret the day I met Paul. No. In all seriousness, if everybody sat through Paul's talk, I've been doing this for a very long time. I call Paul Mr. IP. And at first, you guys are all from Alabama. At first, I thought I didn't understand what Paul was saying because of the accent. And then I just realized that after the first 5 seconds, his networking knowledge is like way up here. So don't feel bad if you were completely lost. Very, very, very smart guy. I'm glad you had me back down here. This is my 3rd conference down here. Both BSides, lots of good friends here. Dianetics, Charlene over at the college, Pseudo Secure are all good friends of ours. And so I'm glad you guys are here. My talk's going to be a little bit more fun, not quite as technical. I'll get into here in just a little bit about what the talk will be about. But let me just, again, talk a little bit about me. I am a security practitioner. Everything I talk about is stuff I've seen in the real world. Like Paul said, my main focus is ethical hacking and forensics. You see a lot of stuff. The stuff I'm going to show you is stuff that really happens. There's no theoretical in here. There are people that are doing a lot of researching. There are researchers out there. They serve their purpose. My purpose is to show you what's out there in the real world. I am an ethical hacker. I do not do this for fun. I do this for pay. My background is I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be a guitarist. And found out very quickly that you don't make a lot of money playing guitar. So got into IT. I love IT. IT is a passion of mine, but hacking is a job for me. I do not do malicious attacking. Okay, this talk that we'll talk about is probably the closest I've ever come to doing, quote, black hat hacking. I do this to help protect you. I am a forensic investigator. Now, if you notice, I have a Missouri private investigator. In 40 states in the union, you have to be a PI in order to do forensics. Why do I bring this up? Because most of your major forensic companies in the United States are blatantly violating this law. A gentleman who has a company by his last name that was mentioned earlier is a major problem with this. In Missouri, you will go to jail for a year without this. If you are breached and you use an unlicensed PI in your state, you can be held liable as well. Be very, very careful about that. If someone is, this is my little bully pulpit right now. If someone is actually there to help you, if they are illegally obtaining evidence, it will not be court grade, and you've just lost any case you may have. And then finally, an instructor. I know I have a couple former students in here. Up until recently, we were doing a lot of CEH, EC Council, CISSP, mostly security. The other gentleman that's speaking right now is one of my employees. So this is like a real awkward thing where we have kind of this whole thing of who's actually going to get the most people in. So I hope I won. If I didn't, please just tell me I won either way. But we run Hacker University, and everybody that instructs for us are actually practitioners. So enough about that. I always like to start off all of my talks with this. You guys have seen this. This dataloss.org, the amount of breaches for a year. You know, I see this in so many executive overviews. What does this tell you? Does this give you anything? Exactly. I love this slide because it means absolutely nothing. You know, we look at this and it's telling us, well, there's so many breaches in this amount of time. Last year, 1,194 breaches. Well, here's the problem I run into, and the whole genesis of this talk is, number one, FBI says that less than 1% of all attacks are actually detected. But the second is what actually is an attack? The problem that we run into in this field is everybody focuses on data. Data this, data that, PII, PHI. There's more to it than data. If you don't get that yet, you're having problems. Trust me, Jennifer Lawrence is not upset that her credit card was breached. Okay? When just saw some disturbing smiles from some guys there. Your credit cards and PHI being taken is not going to take down the power grid. Okay? But okay, we'll play this game. You know, everybody always wants to talk about data and how do we help with data. We can sum it up in one line. Data is not secure. That's it. Okay, so how insecure is it? So the whole idea with this talk was, I believe the data is so insecure that I bet you I can actually obtain sensitive information without ever breaching a single access control. That is getting all of the goods without ever hacking a single system. Can this be done? All right, so going through this, and this is one of the first talks I ever did, quote, research or, you know, came up with an idea for. Before it's usually like, oh crap, look, we got into the store doing this. Let's talk about it. So the whole idea was, where can I find this sensitive information? Now, there's three areas that I focus on in this talk. Number one, purchase old hardware, stuff like eBay. Everybody's heard about this, but I never knew anybody that actually did it. So I'm like, let's buy some hardware off of eBay. Can we get information off of it? Number two, social media sites. I am not discussing Facebook and LinkedIn. Those just don't have enough information. And then finally, old school FTP. All right. Raise your hand if you're under the age of 21. Okay. This applies especially to everyone here. I will be quite honest. Here in Huntsville, everybody is very open on letting younger people in to these cons. I am for that. But you have to understand, what I do in my line of work is illegal for you to ever do. Okay? Until you get hired by a contractor and you are over the age of 18, you will be in trouble. And let me just tell you real quick. If you're 16 years old and you get busted hacking, you come to me at age 24, you will not get a job. Okay? So, pay heed to this. This is a demonstration. This is not an instruction manual for criminal behavior. And this is for those of you over 21 as well. You will go to jail. Obfuscation of sensitive data was done by me. The really shoddy Photoshop, that's me. When possible, the data owner was notified of insecure information. Eventually, I had to stop because too many people to disclose to, and I had a real job to do. And finally, the identity of the owners have been hidden to protect the security impaired. Okay. So let's get started. Now, with old hardware, what my idea was is I am going to get hard drives off of eBay and mobile phones. And what I was going to do is create a forensic image. Now, for those of you that are not familiar with a forensic image, this is different than most of your images like Clonezilla or Ghost in the fact that it does a bit-by-bit image. Meaning, I have a terabyte drive, my image is going to be a terabyte. Okay? Now, what does this allow me to do? This allows me to do a thing called data carving. Basically, remember how a hard drive works. It's like a book. You have all your information, but where the files are, they're all stuck in your file table. Think of it like the index. When you delete a file, it does not erase the file off of the hard drive. It deletes the entry out of the index, out of the file table. So what data carving is I go through the drive and I recreate these files. So can I actually find information that maybe someone didn't delete securely? And then what can I do with it? So the people I was looking at is I was trying to find individuals that were selling higher end business class hardware that was done by an individual. Essentially, I was looking for the IT professional that was offloading their company's old equipment. Okay. Now, the first round, I did not go after vendors, and the second round, I did do hardware vendors. Honestly, this was a mistake on my part. We have a very good partner and a very good hardware end-of-life reseller in St. Louis that I was just spoiled believing that everybody was that good. So I ended up buying 2 iPhones and buying 9 hard drives. All right, so what was my investment? $50 for the iPhones, $120 for the hard drives. Not much money. I had to go beg the wife for some of it, and she eventually relented to give me some money. Now, the iPhones. Start with those real quick. Both of the iPhones came out forensically clean. If you've talked to me for more than 5 minutes, you know I am not a very big fan of Apple. I hate Apple. Okay. The one thing I think Apple does good is their cleaning of the iPhone. When you wipe a phone, it actually zeroes out the drive. Okay? Not much you can do about it. iPhones really were mobile phones in general were really a difficult one to begin with because what we would consider here in the United States as being kind of end of life, over in the Far East and the Middle East, those are still used. So it's really hard to buy any mobile devices for a decent price. So they really just didn't do too much. Now, hard drive zeroed out, meaning this is a forensically clean drive. Someone goes and writes zeros on every single sector to make sure that all the information has been wiped out. One person. And it was this high school kid in Texas. There you go. High school kids do it right. So can't clean your room, but you can clean on a hard drive, right? That's my wife says to me right now. Repartition with artifacts. So basically, what these drives were is these were ones where they just deleted the partitions. Now understand, all the information is still there. They didn't delete anything, they just removed the partitions. It's 7 of those. Right now, 5 of them I call floor models. Basically what it was is it was the image from the hardware distributor. It looked like probably what happened was is a company had gotten a bunch of new computers, took old hard drives and plugged them in, and these were the ones that came from the factory. I had one that was from the University of so-and-so. I knew it was probably the library. It was filled with term paper, porn, and malware. And that is pretty much the library computer at the college. So, and then an office equipment store in PA. It's a very big blue company. Just leave it at that. And a lot of service logs and time off requests. So I had 8 of these drives. And, you know, I'm not getting too much, but I get to number 9. Now, anybody here ever deal with FTK or FTK Imager? All right, so a few of you, the rest of you are like, okay. This is Forensic Toolkit. Okay, this is a free tool that you can get to create forensic images. I'm going to give you an idea of what we see. When we plug this in, we will bring up this drive. So you see up here our physical drive, and then we can look over here and we can see what's on the drive. Now, I'm obviously not going to be able to read that and go, hey, this isn't like the Matrix, right? Oh, hey, look, there's a GIF, right? But what I can look at is if you see these dots, those dots in there, those are zeros, right? So that means that that's completely empty. What I can see very quickly is I can scroll through, and if I see something other than zeros, I know that there's information on that drive. Okay? And this is how I would do it. I plug the drive in. If I saw more than zeros, I could then carve data. This whole idea about you can get data 2 or 3 layers deep, just a realistic understanding of this, you can if you have an electron microscope. Okay? And it's the renting of the electron microscope probably costs more than the actual drive or the data you're trying to retrieve. Now, this drive here, what was interesting is if you come and you look at the left-hand side here, I had a plus sign, and I had partitions. There were still partitions on this drive. That's awesome. So that means that they didn't even care about even deleting, let alone repartitioning it. So I started going through the partitions. That's pretty familiar. This is a Windows system. They just took it out of their drive and threw it in. Now, should be noted, this is one I bought from a hardware vendor. Okay, a reseller, and in their state, they are a state-approved end-of-life reseller. So I did some file carving, but then I also started looking through the drive. And again, purchased from a reseller. Now I started looking through images, and then you look at documents, and realized that it belonged to this lovely lady here. This was her computer. This is her birth certificate. Here's her social security number. Also, her dad's social security card was on there, a bunch of other stuff. Now, I kind of got a little mad, you know, kind of went a little Hulk, because, right, this is a company that is supposed to do end-of-life hardware. Yet, they took this lady's computer and they resold it without even deleting it. And so I'm sitting there in my office, I was, yeah, like that, because that's what I do. I get mad like that. And I started noticing some other strange drive. I'm like, why would this girl have this? And then I found this, and it hit me. Login info, keys, Lenovo, holy crap. This is the owner of the hardware company. Okay? If you want the greatest lesbian movies, I can give that to you as well. I purchased this from a reseller who takes people's computers and securely, end-of-life, wipes them. She not only sold me a drive that was not formatted, partitions were not deleted, it was her own information. It was all of her client information too. Logins, SSL, credit card numbers, everything. She didn't know who in the world I was until I emailed her and said, hey, I don't remember the first time Adrian recorded this, but I'm like, hey, you may want to go check this out. This will be interesting to you. Never heard from her. Okay? So, my conclusion with the hardware is it's promising. It's like Christmas. You got some money or whatever, you get the hard drives in, you can play around with them. This is a lot more common. I mean, I bought 9 drives. And one of them was a jackpot. That's pretty good odds right there. So, I think you could get quite a bit here, especially with companies not really taking care of what happens to their end of life hardware. Question I have for you is, how do you handle end of life media? Okay. Must sound like an old man here, but back in my day, when I was a kid, really when I was a kid, hard drives weren't even around. And when they were expensive. Hard drives, storage in general, media in general, is cheap these days. Destroy it. Destroy it. There's really no reason to reuse. If you have anything sensitive in there, destroy it. It's going to be worth. It'll cost less, and if you know anybody with a hard drive shredder, it's as cool as can be. Than trying to securely wipe it. All right. So, hardware, interesting. So then I started looking at, what about social media sites? Now, I really didn't care about LinkedIn. I didn't care about Facebook. Whenever I teach any sort of hacking class and we do footprinting, those are the first 2 places anybody goes. And yeah, they're helpful, but there has to be more than that. So one of the sites I started looking at was Photobucket. Okay, and Photobucket has a interesting, and the reason I picked on Photobucket is they have a very interesting feature. They have this feature called recent uploads. And what they will allow you to do is, if you have your photos set for public, they'll show up in the recent uploads. This keeps me humble. I hate clowns. And every time I see it, I still get creeped out. Everybody else gets creeped out about the middle freaky guy. I don't like the clown. Now, here's the thing we have to understand about Photobucket. Anything that's in an open bucket, a public bucket, goes into recent uploads. Okay? And you can see it. Right? Now, they do have an app that allows phones that when you take the photos, it'll automatically upload your photos. Here's the problem. By default, that app puts everything as public. So any photo you take is public. Some good stuff, right? And so you start to learn how to look, basically looking for photos that you could tell someone didn't mean to make public. And then I can go into your buckets and see what sort of data is here. I warn you, if you do this, it's very addicting. And I have a buddy of mine, Vaden, who is another forensic investigator, and he came up to me and he goes, dude, I just spent 16 hours on Photobucket. I think I can kill someone just by Photobucket now. I'm like, wow, you've taken this to a whole new level, Vaden. I don't think we need to be friends. But I do want to, because I do see everybody's look. Before you do ask, yes, we found lots of photos like this. Apparently, every girl in America has photographed themselves twerking, and videotaped it. Here's the other thing. You start to realize some really freaky things. If you are a pregnant lady in the 21st century, you have taken at least 1 million photographs of the pregnancy stick, and then of the pregnancy stick again with the box, and then the pregnancy stick on your belly. You start to learn some really weird things about people when they don't think that you've seen. That's very tempting, but understand I also found this. Okay. That's been burned into my mind for the past year, and now it's burned into yours. You're welcome, Paul. I left your photo off. Here's a weird one, and again, this is not really about hacking, but this was just, I found this incredibly just fascinating. Apparently, if you grow weed, you have to take photos of it. This guy had a major grow operation in his basement. He was located in Compton in LA, and the reason I know that is because he also took photos of his welfare application with his name, social security number, and address. So a buddy of mine at the LAPD, he's like, "That's an interesting photo. Can I borrow it?" Yeah. If you have lots of money and you have weed and you have beer, or if you have money and alcohol, you're starting to see a theme: baby and money. That's what they all do. But then I also found stuff like this. Right? Now, you're saying, Dave, that's fine. This is great. But the problem is, we all know we all have to have either a CVV or CVC number on the back. Don't worry. He took a photo of that as well. But how are you going to deal with addressing? Well, he took a photo of his address for this. Okay? The hardest part about this part of the actual talk was whittling down the amount of what to put in here. Okay? This was not unique stuff. This stuff was everywhere. And because I present all over the world, this would be something that, you would hear someone go, "You typical Americans," and so, okay, here's someone in the UK did the exact same thing. All right, here's a plumber that decided to take their client's information and their Amex card and write it down, and to make sure they don't forget about it, the photo of it. Anybody seen the commercials that say, "Hey, deposit by phone, just take photos of your checks"? Lots of checks. Social security number. And I went, "Holy crap, I found Michael Moore." And I realized he's not that fat and he's not wearing a hat. So there's his passport. It's out there. I was on Fox Business 2 days ago talking about the healthcare. And, one of the comments they said is people are just so concerned about with all the loss. That was weird. I just touched this microphone and it all went down. What'd you do, Paul? I just caused an arc up here. That was weird. I'm not too afraid, Bubba. One of the questions people asked was, he goes, "Well, people are just so, with all their information being out here, vendors are just letting their information go." Understand, you are more than likely letting your information go than anybody else. Are you seeing? There we go. Hey, there we go. We're back. There we go. I think I did. I actually think I did. I hit something weird. I'm just shocking like that. You are letting your information out more than anybody else. And guess what? It's just sitting there for the taking. Okay? Here was some dependents of someone on their tax return, and I went, "Oh, sucks. I only got the first 5 digits. Well, they took another photo with all of them. This is my favorite photo because this encompassed everything. Money, checks, social security number. All we need is a big old bong, and we have basically captured America in 2015. So understand, this information here I have gotten with the 0 footprint and without breaking any laws. I have visited a website. And I have your information now, and good luck trying to figure out it was me. But can we actually target anybody with this? So I looked at a couple different targets. So the first one was this lady here. I figured she has a gun and a badge. That's a good target. And she looks pretty mean. So I started looking through her photos. I have to laugh because I just thought the irony was here. Her first photo shows, "Don't judge me, I was born to be true, not perfect." And then there's her social security card and her W-2. This lady is actually an actress. She's based out of Brooklyn. I found her. I made a contact with her over Facebook. And then you want to talk about awkward. You don't know me. I know you. Your stuff's sitting out there. Hey, here's a CNN clip. I've been on the news. Like, that means I'm a good person. I'm like, mass murders have been on CNN. You know, OJ's been on CNN. I'm not saying I'm OJ. I'm just saying. I don't even know what I'm saying at that point. Target number 2. Wonderful couple. Who here works for federal government? Who here has a cat card? Who here knows they're not supposed to raise their hand? They are pretty smart here. You said that. We kept having bets. True or false? It is legal to make copies of your cat card. False. Let's tell this wonderful couple here that have their cat cards up here. By the way, just off record here, we've run into a lot of problems with our clients that are banks, trying to explain to them, no, you cannot take copies of the cat card. You're making yourself legally liable. Big problem. So this couple here, they're in California. They not only had those, they decided to put all of their passwords for their email and everything online. I actually felt bad for the guy because this girl apparently has this weird, strange infatuation with ripping open the shower curtain and taking photos of him. So there's a lot of photos of him like this. And so I got a hold of her, and I was just like, hey, there's a lot of photos of your boyfriend. I just didn't want him to find out that they're out there public. She's like, thanks. That's exactly how she sounded in my head. So at the end of the day, what did we get? This is what's about, I started taking, after about 6 hours, this is what I found. 10 credit card numbers, 15 social security numbers, 30 different login information, personal information, business, trade secrets, 8 hours. One of the biggest problems I found is a lot of people would want to remember something on their computer, click, and that's on Photobucket. Trade information. All right? Sensitive locations. How do you deal with data leakage? Now, my opinion, this is very easy to do, no cost, not really any way to automate. I was at Archon actually with John Matherley of Shodan, and he captured me afterwards. He's like, no, you can automate this and make a tool. And I said, you know, John, I've just told you that. He's like, no, you are going to make a tool. I'm like, yes, sir, I'm going to make a tool. Hasn't been made yet. Big question here, how do you deal with PIC leakage? BYOD is not going to cover this. Okay? How do you make sure people are not taking photos? Now, finally, the last area I wanted to look at was FTP sites. Before I started this company, I was running an IT group for a bank. And I had so many clients that would come in and say, oh, or so many vendors say, just upload something to this FTP site. Well, it's anonymous. That's okay. No one will find it. Really? Banks probably haven't learned their lessons. Let's see what we can find. So I ended up using Metasploit Framework. There is an FTP anonymous scanner that will go through, look for anonymous FTP. Nmap, you can do it as well. It's faster. I just didn't like it because Nmap actually notates every time there is it tries to make a connection whether or not the logs get really large, and it's harder to parse them. So that's kind of what it looks like. Now, started going through, found a lot of the typical stuff. Figure is pirated, right? We'd see music, movies, Daryl, Captain Ron. I'm like, this is my childhood right here, you know? Then I started seeing stuff like this, QuickBooks. That's not something you normally see on a pirated site. Well, that looks like that's someone's root C drive. Start seeing some really weird trends forming. Now, this was January of last year when I started looking at this. One of the big things I noticed is when I was looking at the file headers, I was seeing a lot of stuff that said like ASUS. And when you started looking at it, you realize the stuff that's out here and the way that these are set up, these are not set up by anybody that knows that they're setting these up. So this was actually happening around the time I was down here for BSides last year when I was doing this, and went out and found this ASUS router. Anybody ever had one of these or seen these? What's wonderful about it is it has a USB. You plug it in, a hard drive in, you have a NAS. You have your own network area storage. Well, by default, it's actually, the ASUS routers will actually create an anonymous FTP site. By default. All right? Now, I was real excited. I was real excited because, holy crap, I found a 0 day. And I'm about ready to go to BSides San Francisco. I have my PR guy. We're about ready to launch it. And the guy that presented the other thing over there, we call him Downer Ben, which is the reason you guys are happy people. That's why you don't see him. He sends me crap like this. Someone announced that vulnerability. Now, to this guy's credit, he had been holding off for 8 months. He called ASUS, and ASUS said, no, that's a configuration option. Most people don't even know what that is, let alone what FTP is, let alone how to configure it or not. Now, what did we find? This is one of the part of the area I wish I could show you the stuff, but I really can't. So I'll just tell you what it is. Found financial information, business information, personal, financial information, unencrypted backup, again, business and residential. Also found a real bad trend forming where company information was from large companies were being brought home and stored by employees. And then it's getting out here. There's a very large national bank in which I found all of their Visio documents and their logins to their routers because their main network architect took it all home. Medical records, the scariest one was a psychologist and psychiatrist in Boston. I found about 2,000 of his patients' psychological profiles sitting on an anonymous FTP site. Intellectual property, passwords galore. I use that term passwords galore because someone actually named their passwords file passwords galore. And it was a very large company. I'm like, that's great. Voter information. Just so you know, in one state of the union, we still have voters that are registered that are voting that were born in 1875. America. In a nutshell, everything. This was it. I have everything. See, here's the crux of it here. Everybody is worried about protecting all their information, and they're worried about people getting in, yet these devices that are in a lot of businesses, even bigger businesses, are sitting here creating FTP sites that anybody can access. You're not only not protecting the information, you're giving it away. Now, before I really pick on just ASUS, understand that this was not an ASUS only problem. When I was going through this, I actually found other developers or other solutions other than ASUS that was doing this. And we waited, and I contacted each company, and the gentleman that found the ASUS thing did an 8-month. I cited 8 months. That sounds great. So we waited 8 months, and we never heard back from any of them. So the other companies that have the same problem, Netgear, Cloudbox, Linksys, and Cisco, all of them. Okay. Now, Cloudbox doesn't automatically create an FTP site. You have to hit a button that says share my files, and then it will create an FTP site, anonymous, and go out UPnP. Everything. Your routers, your Cisco, Mac, iCloud, whatever they call them inside. I just call them, what do we call it? Airport, of course. If it's not it's air. It's like, sorry. This is not going away. My talk this year is about, I found some, as Mr. Coggin would say, the advanced vendor persistent threat. I found a lot of issues where vendors are causing a lot of this problem. But understand, I keep running scans, and the amount of these devices are becoming more and more and more. Now, people have started to take this to another level. They've started trolling with it. Like going in, deleting people's stuff, and then saying it was because of copyright. There's actually one person that had like, where is your porn? Then it has this whole explanation. What happened to all my music files? It's great. This was my favorite one. Someone was going through saying because of the Patriot Act, they were going in and taking all of the data. And then they were entering in the person's IP address and then giving them a unique ID number. Now, here's the thing to understand. The site I took this off of did not have anonymous write access. It had default credentials, password, but it was not right. Right for anonymous. So people do know about this, and they're going after it. Now, anything else interesting? This one I found in France, and it really hit me because when I looked at the first file, it said agent surveillance log. Like, oh, that's interesting. What is that? I don't speak French. My wife's dad's French-Canadian. Don't hold it against her if you ever see her. She's also a redhead, so it's just kind of, she's screwed all around. I kept asking her, I had to keep reading stuff in French, and I'm yelling downstairs to her, and I'm like, what's this mean? She's like, it means this. Why? What's this? Just tell me. Don't worry about it. Okay? What I ended up finding out is, in France, in the U.S., you go to the hospital, and while you may pay a lot to be there, what you don't pay for is phone or the TV. In France, they may pay a lot of your hospital, but you have to pay for your TV and you have to pay for your phone. This was the computer, the kiosk computer, that took your payments. Now, let me just explain what this is. Someone has taken a Windows drive, a Windows system, made an anonymous FTP that has read and write access to the root C drive that handles not only patient information, but credit card information, and it's sitting behind a firewall in the middle of a hospital. This is my talk this year, okay? This violated so many rules out there. My wife was the one that had to make the call to find out if they could speak English, and I don't really know if she even explained to him exactly what it was. But the lady just kept going, "Oh no, 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 no good, no good, no good." So I think she got it. So to wrap up. As of this time, at this time, I'd scanned about a half of a Class A. Anonymous FTP servers, over 3,000. It's a lot. Of those that were legitimate servers, meaning ones that people knew were out there, less than 100. Majority of these were FTP sites that have personal information that the people do not know is out there. Okay. As of right now, this is the path of least resistance. This is just information galore. We are giving it away. Okay. We can blame companies. We can talk about access controls all we want. But if we can't even keep the data from leaking out of our environment, how are you ever going to try to protect it? You know, it's that whole, you need to secure it first. You need to make sure we can secure it and that we can account for it, and then start to get fancy with our defenses. All right, any questions? Hard drives on printers. That is a good question. Don't print. I'm just kidding. No, that is a very good question. I'm actually bringing this up while I was waiting for my turn. I was going through logs, and you see what those are. Those are printers sitting out on the internet. Why in 2015 anybody needs to have a printer sitting on the internet is beyond me. But yes, that is actually a major issue. Anything that gets scanned to it, faxed to it, copied on it, gets stored. And then if I can get to it, you're done. You resell the printer, you're done. We actually have a lot of our organizations we work with that have us forensically wipe those. The problem is you can't really find the install disk for those. So what they realize is you're not going to be able to resell those printers, but that's okay. That's old school spy stuff there. I mean, that's how the U.S. used to get stuff from the Russian embassy, was through copiers, copying everything. Most of the multifunction do. And they freaked out. You know what you do is you say, well, let's get forensically cleaned. Let's get forensically looked at. And if you're wrong, your lease is on us. Or, you know, you pay for our lease for the next 2 years. Well, that's the problem we're running into. One of the things I didn't get into here is IP cams. I'm finding not only are these things open FTP, they're open SSH, they're open everywhere, that people are actually building botnets off of them. And the problem is it's ignorance. Not in a negative standard, but these people are the people that sell the IP cameras are not technology people. They're surveillance people, they're physical security people, and they do not understand. They don't think it would make sense, just like with the printer. It wouldn't make sense for us to save stuff, but it does. It has to. It does not securely delete it. By default, it will be on there. And that's just, we have to understand that. We have a multifunction computer at our office, and we use it for the scanning. And, you know, we look at the risk and we look at what we have to do. But at the end of the day, when we're done with it, we're destroying it. And we're destroying the drive. It's not worth reselling. Reselling is just not worth it these days, especially when it comes to media. Any others? Send me your IP address. Put a credit card number on there. If you can log into it, look to see if it has UPnP set up. Turn that off. And if you have a NAS set up on it or a hard drive plugged in, unplug it. Go find out. Go get on the user manual and find out how to make sure to turn off FTP sharing. This is something, as of today, I don't think ACES has even addressed. Because the problem is once you have to address it, there will be legal and financial ramifications. All right, I'm over my time. I will tell you, if you can, come up to Show Me Con. This is our con this year. It's St. Louis, Missouri. A lot of the speakers will be here. The speaker that's coming up after me is one of my featured speakers. He's a much better speaker than I am, and he paid me a lot of money to say that. So otherwise, we'll be around. Thanks for having us out, and have a good rest of the con.